everyone, it's me, Crafty Witch, and welcome back to my channel. So this video is going to be about crow and raven magic or medicine. I use those two terms, magic and medicine, interchangeably. So if you've been a subscriber of my channel for any length of time, you already know that. If you're new here, welcome. Hit subscribe. Become part of the family. But anyway, I want to do a video about crow and raven magic because a lot of people will group those two as being one and the same, which is unfortunate because there are some differences, even though there's a lot of similarities, and oftentimes people will just kind of combine the two as being, well, this crow attribute will automatically apply to the raven. And that's not always necessarily the case. However, because there's so many commonalities between the two, it's very understandable how that misconception can come about. But there are some differences. So I do encourage people to do your own research. There is a plethora of folklore associated with crows and with ravens found all around the world, whether it's ancient Greece, whether it's Native Americans in various tribes here in the Americas, whether it's Nordic, Celtic, you name it, Egyptian, they are found around the world. And if you work with a specific pantheon, you might want to explore that more. Or if you maybe are following a certain tradition, whether it's Celtic, and even that, it could be Irish or Scottish or maybe whatever, Norse, what have you, you might want to explore even that further. But it's also good to explore other cultures and other belief systems that do have associations with both crows and or ravens, and to just kind of learn like other ways that people are working with those two animal spirits. So anyway, I've got my handy dandy little notebook here. It's actually quite beautiful. This book my son got me for my birthday last year. It's gorgeous. So I've got some notes in here. So if I look down, I'm reading out of here so I don't forget anything, okay? So I am going to talk primarily about the attributes in this video, not necessarily, there's a darn fly in here, not necessarily all the gods or goddesses associated with either crows or ravens. I'll mention a couple, but go do your own research. This is primarily about their attributes that you can tap into, call upon, that kind of thing. All right. So of course, crows are known to be messengers from the spirit world. And they're also associated with things like mysticism and magic and illusions and alchemy, and they're like this mystical, mysterious blackbird that is associated with being able to go into the spirit world and come back and go back and forth with ease. So if that's something that you want to tap into or work with, by all means tap into crow. Also working with the shadow self, if that is something that is part of your practice, or it's just for your own personal professional development, spiritual development, working with your shadow self, if you feel that you want a guide that can kind of guide you through that process, you can call upon crow for that as well. Shape-shifting magic, no surprise there. Crow and ravens are both associated with shape-shifting magic. I know I've talked about shape-shifting magic before with some of the other animals that I've covered, and there's kind of like there's like four main folks there that are associated, animals that are associated with shape-shifting. Crow is one of them, or raven is one of them. They're also associated with something called doubling. So if you want to have your consciousness, your awareness to be at two separate places at the same time. This is not like a body doubling. This is like your conscious doubling. Um, you can tap into crow for that, so that you can be aware of what's happening in another location while you are fully conscious and aware at some other location. So if that is the kind of magic that you want to utilize or tap into, call upon crow for that. Crow can assist you with doing doubling magic. Of course, illusion magic. They're also known to be protectors of sacred writings and like history and various like ancient mysteries and like arcane knowledge and arcane magic. So if that is something you want to maybe tap into, you can call upon crow for that. Of course, they're also known to be omens of change and of death and sickness and things like that. That is not saying that crows are bad. That's a huge misconception. Just because you see a bunch of crows doesn't mean it's evil or bad, but it could be a warning to you that, hey, something significant is going to happen. Maybe somebody you're really close to will get sick, or maybe there might be a real significant change, could be even loss, or that kind of thing coming your way, or whatnot. And it's like they are warning you to prepare for that. And I think I talked briefly about what had happened when I had seen all these crows on my fence, and then what had happened. There was a huge significant loss in my life that happened after that, but maybe I'll share that at the end. Moving on. Crows, oh yes, with their sight. So crows have the ability to see the mundane world as we see it, and the spirit world overlapped with the mundane world. So they can see both the mundane and the spirit world at the same time. And in addition to that, they can also see both into the past, the present, and the future, and the mundane and the spiritual world all at once. So that is a powerful gift that belongs to crow. And if that is something that you would also like to tap into, that type of attribute, you can call upon crow to help guide you with that kind of magical working as well. And of course, they're also associated with creation magic. Some tribes refer to crow as the crow mother. And so there's various creation stories that do honor crow and do recognize crow as bringing forth life into this world. So that might be something you want to go and further explore on your own time. And of course, they're also associated with like intelligence, the ability to outwit opponents. So if you are in some kind of battle, like or a competition, maybe it's to do with a court case, maybe it's to do with work or a job or a contract, maybe it's somebody out there that they are opposing you, and maybe it's unjust and you need to outwit them. Call upon crow for that. Crow can be a wonderful ally to help you outwit and maybe think about things that are so outside the box you would never have thought about before. So call upon crow in those kind of cases for that. They are also excellent guardians. They do give, if you hear snoring, that's my son. I just heard him snore super loud. I hope the camera doesn't pick that up, but it might, who knows. But you can call upon crows for like spiritual strength, guidance, and sometimes they will show up in your life, especially for those that are kind of new to paganism or the magical path or what have you. They might show up and give you signs, and it might be like an invitation for you to like explore your own spiritual development, so to speak. So sometimes they show up right when you're on the verge of maybe meeting a spiritual teacher or kind of guiding you to meet a spiritual teacher or to develop your own spiritual growth. And so, yeah, they'll show up as kind of being like a spiritual teacher in that aspect. Of course, with duality, they're also known to be like the little brother to Raven. And they're associated with a lot of different entities and gods and goddesses, such as, of course, the Morrigan. A lot of people are familiar with that. Baba Yaga. They're associated with even like Egyptian gods or goddesses. Like, I'm gonna butcher this name, so forgive me. Nephthys. I think that's how you pronounce it. And they're even associated with, there's a Hindu goddess as well. Dhumavati. Oh, I'm sorry if I butchered that name. And there's even like the Dene and the Hopi tribes down in the United States. They have, folklore about the Crow Mother. So the Crow has found its way into the hearts of mankind, humankind, womankind, all over the world. And there's so many stories and so much folklore out there. I do encourage you to go and explore and research on your own. So now we're going to move into Raven. Now with Raven medicine or Raven magic, there are so many attributes that overlap with Crow. It's super easy to understand why people kind of lump them together. That's my son's cat, Trixie. She just knocked over my book of dreams. Hey, what you doing? Should have just named you Loki. You're always getting into stuff. Anyway, so there's a lot of overlap between crows and ravens, but there are some differences, and I think that's important to respect and to acknowledge that yes, there are differences. It's like eagle and hawk. Okay, those are like the like there's eagle be kind of like the big brother to hawk. They're both farsighted. They both can see the bigger picture. They both can soar. They both have similar attributes, but there's also some significant differences. It's no different with crow and raven, and unfortunately we just kind of just lump it all together. And if one goddess is associated with crows, we just automatically go, well, she's also associated with ravens. And it's like, why is that? Just because they're both black birds? Why are they linked together? And kind of just thrown together. Whereas certain other deities, it's specifically either it's just a crow or it's just a raven that's associated with them. And even just the omens, like, oh, I saw, this amount of crows and that's such a bad omen, or I saw this amount of ravens, oh, that's so bad. It's like, that bothers me. Just because, well, of course there's the misconceptions, right? But I think it's just important to remember that they are individual, like on a spiritual context. Of course, on a physical, they are two separate birds. They are related, but they are separate. And where I live, one flies down south, like the crows. They leave here in the wintertime. They fly south, because I live in Canada. The crows fly south, and the ravens will stay throughout the winter. And there are differences, of course. And the same thing with the magical practices. They aren't one in the same, although they are similar. So I just think it's important to acknowledge the difference. But let's carry on. Balance, duality, magic. Ravens, you can also tap into them for rain magic. So if you're into the whole weather magic, especially with regards to rain magic, you can tap into raven for that. Whereas with crow, that's not associated with them for the most part. Loyalty, wisdom, earth magic, of course, witches and witchcraft, which are also associated with crows as well, but with ravens, that's something that I have written down for them. They're also known to be the record keepers. Again, another overlap with crows about, you know, protecting sacred writings and things like that. And again, another overlap is shape-shifting. So they're both associated with shape-shifting. So if that's something you want to explore, tap into, incorporate into your own practice, you can call upon raven as well, or crow, or both. Go for it. They're also associated with creation, just like with crows. So there's a lot of creation myths and stories around the world about raven. So you can tap into that, go research that if you want. They're also known to be messengers of the gods. They can foretell death or of battles or of bad magic or bad medicine or hexes or curses or anything like that that is being sent to you from somebody else. They aren't the ones sending it to you. Like the crows aren't the ones that are typically sent to you to do that. They can be. You can incorporate them just like any animal to do good or bad, any form of magic. It's really neutral, but they will also warn you if somebody else out there, maybe another practitioner, is trying to send something negative or harmful your way. They will often come and warn you of that. They're also known to bring forth life into this physical world from the spiritual world. Another thing is they are known for bringing awakenings, like spiritual awakenings to people with signs and omens and whatnot. You can tap into them with regards to ceremonial magic if that's something that you're into. And of course, healing magic, omens. They're also associated with, you know, just like how crow was associated with like the Morrigan and Baba Yaga and, you know, the crow mother of the Hopi and the Dene tribe. With ravens, they're also associated with various gods and goddesses such as Odin, Apollo, and Bran, which is a Welsh god, and of course the Morrigan. So that's just a brief little snippet on crows and ravens. I've had my own experiences with both. And I have talked about this before in other videos, but I'll just share some of the omens I've gotten. One of the most recent ones was actually just a few weeks ago. This lady I knew, she was actually an in-law to me. I had known her for, oh my gosh, okay, my son is 32, so I would have known her for 33 years since I was 15 years old. It's a long time. When you start counting in decades how long you've known somebody, and once it hits like 3 decades, it's like, damn, I'm getting old. But so yeah, there was a raven actually that came and literally woke me up. It was super early in the morning and was like making this ruckus in my front yard and kept cawing and like just was loud and woke me up and then flew up to my window and then flew away, but had been out there for quite some time. Like it wasn't like it was just out there for like 5-10 minutes kind of thing. It was out there for a long time. It was about maybe 6 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And then when it flew up to my bedroom window and it was like flapping its wings and I was like, oh shoot, I know something's coming, some bad news is coming. And later that day, she passed away. So it was like, okay, you know, they came to let me know. Then a couple years ago, um, somebody that I loved a great deal, loved all my life, basically, since I was like 8 years old, um, and was like, ah, the love of my life. And yeah, so what happened was I was in my kitchen, and then I don't know, it was one of those days. I was just probably doing chores or something, and I was in my kitchen, and then I glanced up and I looked at my fence. My fence is pretty long. I've got this big wooden fence, and right from the house all the way down the whole entire backyard, all the way to the alley. Um, the whole entire fence was covered with crows and ravens. They were sitting side by side. Some were facing north, some were facing south, and they lined the whole entire fence. There was no gap, and it was a mix of crows and ravens, and they all sat. That was my cat. She fell. Are you okay? Kiva. Stum. Are you okay? Did you fall asleep and fall and hit the TV stand? This is Kiva. She's my baby. Say hi. Say hi. Poor baby. You okay? Are you okay? Yeah. Gotta be careful. You might break your ribs or something. So anyway, when now I got cat hair all over my face. Oh. So anyway, I saw all these crows and all these ravens sitting on my fence, and they were sitting literally side by side, shoulder to shoulder, wing to wing, and my blood ran cold, basically, and the hair kind of stood up, and I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I was going to be getting some really bad news. And I knew somebody passed away, and I knew it was an omen, and it was like huge. You know what I mean? It wasn't just like when the lady that I talked about just a few minutes ago, that when she passed, it was the one, and it was like, okay, I get it. Like, that was a pretty strong omen. But when I saw all of these crows and these ravens, and they were all lined up like side by side throughout the whole entire fence, I knew right then and there that something drastic, bad that was gonna like deeply impact me had happened. And but never thought in a million years it would have been him that had gotten killed. So and it was a very horrible, gut-wrenching kind of death, right? Like, he had gone mountain climbing and had fallen and was injured, and he did succumb to his injuries. They figure about 2 hours after he fell. He tried to do a tourniquet, and there was so many massive injuries, and then they didn't find his body for like 3 to 4 weeks, and like the search parties, and yeah, it was really, really the most painful experience I've gone through in my whole life. I've lost my parents, my stepmom, I've lost my grandparents, all my aunts, all my uncles, and those were all significant losses. Do not get me wrong. My parents were my best friends, and oops, I hit the camera. And but when he died, like, he always said we were like two peas in a pod, that we're always cut from the same granite or the same marble. He always said we're cut, instead of being cut from the same cloth, he always said we're cut from the same stone. And we just shared this really unique love for one another. And oh my goodness, yeah, it was the most powerful omen that I've received so far, involving crows and ravens. And it was something that was very painful. I do not blame the crows or ravens, because that's they're the messengers. They come to let you know, like, hey, you need to prepare. You might be getting some bad news, or you will be getting some bad news, or hey, like, they come to warn you. They're not bad, they're good. But they come to warn you, and they can come and be your guide. And I think also with the amount that was there, it was also to, like, give me, like, spiritual strength, which is one of the attributes that I talked about, that you know, you can tap into, and definitely needed to tap into them for that during that time frame. It took a long time to heal from that. And yeah, so that was just part of my own experience with regards to omens, with crows and ravens. And you know, sometimes and I mean, there's even magpies too. They're related to them as well, but they're also a little bit different. And so yeah, that's just my little blurb on crow and raven magic or medicine. Take it or leave it. It's all good. Take what you can from it, leave the rest. And yeah, so that's it for now. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day wherever you may be, or a wonderful evening. I have no idea if anybody's even going to watch this, but anyway, take care, and we'll talk to you guys soon.